And what had occurred with these very high tariffs was the equivalent of an embargo, and neither side wants that. We want more balanced trade, and I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
We have a deal. U.S. and Chinese officials said on Monday they've agreed to a 90-day pause on most of the tariffs they placed on each other.
That announcement coming out of weekend discussions in Switzerland. According to a joint statement from the two countries, U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports will be slashed by 115 percentage points, from a 145% tariff to just 30%. China's tariffs on U.S. imports also will come down 115 percentage points, from 125 to just 10. The deal also includes a promise to establish a mechanism to continue discussions about economic and trade relations.
The news seemed to give Wall Street a boost. Markets opened sharply up this morning. The Dow is up 2.24%. NASDAQ is up 3.22%. S&P is up 2.38%. Meantime, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt had this to say this morning on Fox & Friends.
This is an extraordinary first step in the right direction, and thanks to the strength of President Trump, Secretary Bessent and Ambassador Greer were able to cut this initial deal with China. China agreed to reduce their tariffs on the United States by 115%, and they also agreed to continue seriously discussing the grave impact that Chinese-produced fentanyl is having right here in the United States.
Editor-in-Chief of the Midas Touch, Ron Filipkowski, responded to Leavitt in a post on X, saying, quote, China agreed to reduce the tariffs they raised in response to Trump's tariffs, after Trump agreed to lower his tariffs. Create a problem, surrender, then declare victory.
Well, I don't know which way you want to slice it, but I am so glad that we've negotiated a deal and the tariffs are going away.
Sure.
And that's the point of threatening the tariffs is what I think the Scott Bessents of the administration will say, was to come up with a more favorable arrangement. Now, I'm sure what you're going to say, and the cynics are going to say, is we're actually just back to square one anyway.
I hope you're not accusing me of cynicism, Robby. Perish the very thought.
I think it would be fair to wonder why with China this was worth doing, because again, the argument for China was there's national security concerns. Now, Trump people feel like they got something favorable in terms of commitment to address the fentanyl crisis. That was in their press release on this, and some other non-tariff related malfeasance that China is guilty of. But the markets certainly like to see the tariffs come down, and I hope that will serve as a good lesson to all.
So you and I do have some common ground here in that we have both been skeptical of the tariffs since they were introduced. In fact, since before they were introduced. And one of the things I think we do agree on is the idea that these tariffs were going to be kept in place for the months or years that would be required to spark a regeneration of American manufacturing was just nonsense. That was just never going to happen.
Fantasy.
And so that was the view that had been put by people like Peter Navarro in particular, and that isn't going to happen, obviously, because there has been this, I would say climb down, you probably wouldn't use that word, but the tariffs have been greatly, greatly reduced in relation to China. On the politics of it, the problem that I have, and it was typified by Caroline Leavitt's interview there, talking about this is thanks to the strength of President Trump. It is just amazing that Trump has this propensity to drive the car into the ditch and no one says anything, or people praise his innovative driving. And then when he finally finds reverse gear to get out of the mess into which he's put himself, we are expected to praise his strategic genius. It is just an absurd kind of contention and frankly somewhat cultish, and I think we should get away from that.
I think it would have been better for the administration to prioritize the Chinese tariffs and not do the other tariffs, and that would have been a clearer sign that no, China is an outlier in its tariff policy, in its threats to our own national security, to global security really, to its authoritarian nature internally in its country, to what it puts our tech companies through and our other companies when they want, like the NBA and everybody, when they want to be involved there, you can't criticize them at all. I find that absolutely morally abhorrent. The stealing of the IP, the other things. There are China-specific issues that if you were going to sell a tariff regime targeting that country on some other grounds, I think but that would behoove you to have even more favorable trade relations everywhere else. Now, they keep saying they're hammering out all these deals. There was positive progress with the UK last week. Actually, I was on the BBC.
Oh, excellent.
As they were hammering out that deal.
You should have told me.
Talking about that, isn't that nice?
I would have plugged myself back into media to hear your words of wisdom on the topic.
It was very exciting. So there was that, and other countries. And look, I am, as you know, even though I'm in the right side of the table, I'm not a big fan of tariff policies in general. Republicans have typically not been big supporters of tariffs. Actually, it's been some Democrats in the past who are more supportive of tariffs, which is why I've found it interesting that some, even now, like Gretchen Whitmer and Elizabeth Warren and others, have tried to say, well, we don't like the way Trump is doing it, but we want to reserve this power for when we're back in charge for a variety of reasons. And Biden maintained some of the tariffs that Trump put in place with respect to China. I am glad to see tariffs falling away. The markets will reward Trump, and it could be that by the time midterms roll around, that this is going to be a long forgotten brief interruption to the markets. I hope for the sake of our economy that that's the case, not just narrowly for the Republican Party's political fortunes.
So in relation to the midterms and the politics, I think it is very notable that Trump has pulled his horns back in on this, because to my mind he saw the potential political damage on his own presidency. We saw the numbers disapproving of his tariff policy and his general handling of the economy shoot up. And for all Trump's other flaws, and I'm quite happy to enunciate those, he does have political antennae that I think picked up on the fact that this was going to be politically disastrous for him. And so he has made this U-turn. I don't think he deserves particular praise for it, but it certainly mitigates the politically detrimental impact.
Absolutely. Well, coming up, a testy interview between Bill Maher and David Hogg, and actually ended up in a surprise exchange where they seemed to get along. It was really good, great clip. We'll discuss it. Stay tuned.